Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I have my friend, Dr. Elena Seranova, molecular biologist and superstar entrepreneur at NMN Bio. Try saying that 3 times. Welcome, Elena. It's fantastic to have you again.
Great to be here again. Really loving it.
Awesome. And today we've got a little short show for you, and we're going to be talking about supplements, why you need to take them, our modern nutrition, and going through some of the molecules that you might be interested in. So, Elena, why do we need to supplement at all? Our grandparents didn't need to. Why do we need to?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'd like to talk about the modern nutrition and what it has basically become over the past few decades, because our nutrition is fundamentally different from the nutrition that our ancestors had 100 years ago, 200 years ago, thousands of years ago. The carbohydrates were introduced into our diet only, very recently, and with massive agriculture and especially with the industrialization of the previous century, we've seen such a huge shift from basically primal nutrition and protein-based nutrition that was full of vitamins and full of different nutrients that we need to a lot of carbohydrate consumption with the modern food pyramid, suggesting that we need 55% of our calories being coming from carbohydrates. And so here there are a couple of interesting points. So first of all, the massive agriculture has resulted in a lot of foods not being as nutritious as they were even, let's say, 70 or 80 years ago. So that's point number one. And point number two is that what are actually the essential nutrients that our body needs? So protein is being broken down into amino acids, and fat is being broken down into fatty acids, and carbohydrates, they just being broken down into sugars. And this is the non-essential stuff. Yes, they still generate energy. However, for example, with fat and fatty acids, we do need fats because all of our cell membranes are consist of basically fats, cholesterol, and so on. So this is actually a very essential part of what our body needs in order to function well. And unfortunately, like I'm hearing people saying things like, "Oh, I'm on a weight loss. I'm just counting calories in, calories out, and it's all good." Not all calories are the same, because if you just keep on loading your body with what I'm calling empty calories, which could be sugars, for example, like any sort of carbohydrates, right? So pasta, rice, things like that. Like there is a minimal, even fruits, of course, there is like, there are minimal nutrients, but even fruits, like they consisted of many more nutrients 100 years ago, but now with massive agriculture, fruits and vegetables have lost all of the nutrients that they had as well. So when we're talking about nutrition, the modern day nutrition and what people consume, unfortunately, like in my opinion, like the goal should not only be to just stay alive and take some calories during the day. The goal is to basically nurture your body and make sure that it has all the nutrients that it needs. And there's been recently a scandal with the Liver King, the guy that founded Ancestral Supplements, because he was basically advocating this nose to tail nutrition and eating all of the organ meats, in a supplement form. And then basically, like, what we realized is that he was taking steroids this whole time. However, I want to kind of separate the individual from the brand, because I actually think that the brand is excellent and the products are excellent, with desiccated beef liver, which is super nutritious. Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking it as well, right? And like, by the way, I have no affiliation with the company, but I do like their products. Because I think that when you're nurturing your body and you're switching to a high protein diet where all of the calories that you're consuming are super nutrition, not just empty, your body starts operating in a different way. And of course, this is tied up to the unnecessary insulin resistance that is rising in your body when you're consuming carbohydrates on a regular basis. And that's a whole nother subject. And as you know, very passionate about spreading the word about insulin resistance and how bad it is, because after studying different longevity pathways and the biology of aging in general, this is where it all comes back to. Because I was very passionate about studying neuroscience at first. This is my educational background, and I was trying to understand neurodegeneration. I was trying to understand how the brain works and why does it age and why do we have neurodegeneration. And then when I was studying different molecular mechanisms, it looks like it doesn't make sense to start intervening into different aspects of biology if there is insulin resistance. And this is true for neurodegeneration and also for other major diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases, for example. Like cardiologists nowadays, they're giving wrong advice when it comes to, nutritional guidelines for people with cardiovascular disease. This is, to me, this is, it's crazy, basically.
It's 20 years old, the information that you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. So what they're doing is they're suggesting, let's say, reduce salt intake, but then they're not telling you anything about your sugar consumption. However, if you're no matter the amounts of salt you're consuming, if there is no insulin spikes in the blood, you're not going to have progression and development of the atherosclerotic plaques. So, to me, this doesn't make sense. Why are you telling your patients to reduce salt consumption, but you're not telling them anything about insulin resistance, right? So
absolutely.
Unfortunately, in the medical profession, what we're seeing now in medical schools is that doctors are taught to be providing palliative care, and the process of new knowledge being developed by scientists and then being integrated into the medical school studies, it takes years or
30 years,
even 10 years, decades. Yes.
Decades.
So most doctors are not up to date if they're not proactive themselves about nutrition, and let alone they're not even studying that much nutrition at the medical school. Like they hardly have any classes on nutrition. So
less than a day, less than a day on nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go back to your original question, saying, okay, well, my grandpa didn't have to supplement, right? So 100 years ago, where people still had some really good, fresh, organic produce from their village, like including meats and vegetables and so on, like everything was fortified with a lot of nutrients and so on. And we just simply can't get that from our nutrition at the moment. So no matter how good or balanced you think your diet is, you're not going to get all the nutrients that your body needs and all the vitamins. And the term vitamin, it was first established in the 1920s from vital and amines. So from the scientists that discovered vitamins, they gave it this term because it's basically the vital blocks that the body needs in order to function. So for me, this is basically stage number one of your supplementation. So you need to make sure that you're taking the appropriate vitamins for your body, and then like stage number two of supplementation for someone would be to go into more depth and kind of consider what kind of specialized anti-aging compounds someone would need after the age of 25, 30, because this is when the aging process starts. And this is when you need to ask yourself, okay, well, how are my energy levels? How is my focus? Because a lot of people are kind of taking fatigue and decreased energy levels for granted nowadays. And it actually doesn't need to be this way. So this is very, very interesting to see. And I think that there are a lot of conscious individuals already out there that are realizing that, look, like this natural decline and progression doesn't need to be progressing at a certain pace. Like you kind of can slow it down, if not, if not completely
or even reverse
stop.
it soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what's
exactly.
looking like coming. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
this is where the different vitamins and then the different anti-aging compounds are coming in, because like you already cannot get the vitamins from your food, and let alone the specialized anti-aging compounds, because they're just in trace amounts in some foods, and there is definitely no way that you're going to get as much of an anti-aging compound that you need from just, you know, the food that you're consuming.
And if we look at like lifespan has definitely increased. So like I think the average in the Western world is around the 79 years at the moment but our health span is something like 63 years on average. It'd be different slightly in each country, but that's a huge amount of time where you're spending with morbidities and disablement, and you know, like there are so we don't want to be just existing because medical science is brilliant and they do great surgeries and they do great things that keep us alive, but how are you living and how are you progressing? And then if we also look at the toxins that we're exposed to, on average, they say about 500 chemicals per day per human is what we're exposed to through the pesticides, through our vegetables, through our crops, through our shampoos, our cosmetics. All of that means that our detox pathways have to be operating at full capacity if we want to stay healthy. And this is where some of the molecules come in. You know, like I'm a big fan of optimizing methylation. Speaking of methylation, you have a product TMG, trimethylglycine, also known as betaine. And this is one of those donors, those methyl donors. Can you explain a little bit about methylation and about TMG and why that one's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So, those are a couple of very interesting points that you've mentioned here. So I just wanted to add something with regards to lifespan. So surprisingly, lifespan has indeed increased, especially in the West, but the last generation of Americans and Europeans, it seems like their lifespan will actually be decreased at the moment. And it has to do with the obesity epidemic and the diabetes epidemic. And as I previously mentioned, you know, diabetes obviously has to do with insulin resistance. And then insulin resistance manifests a bunch of other diseases that you
cancer
get
to Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now is that type 2 diabetes was something like much more rare in the past, and also something that would manifest later in life, you know, in the 40s and 50s and so on. And now we see even little children getting type 2
I've
diabetes.
got one this week, an 8-year-old with fatty liver disease. You know,
wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what we're seeing is that our diet and our current lifestyle is definitely not advocating for a long and healthy life. So with regards to TMG and methylation, so basically what happens is that, so TMG is trimethylglycine, so it's a glycine molecule with 3 methyl groups on it, and methylation is a natural bodily process in which 3 hydrogen atoms and 1 carbon atom are transferred from one molecule to another. So it's basically like a signaling mechanism inside your body, if you wish, and it's implicated in different important functions. So this could be creating neurotransmitters or cell divisions and energy production, metabolism, DNA expression. So it has to do with epigenetics, fighting free radicals, and so on. So it is an extremely important process, but our bodies don't have an infinite amount of fuel for this process. And the fuel for this process are the methyl groups. And this is why taking TMG is so important, because TMG can basically provide your body with those methyl groups that it needs. It also is very important for liver support. And what we've seen is there are already a lot of clinical trials published on trimethylglycine, and this is not a new compound, by the way, and it's only been recently categorized as an anti-aging compound because of the assistance that it offers to our epigenetics, basically, and our DNA expression. But there's been studies 20 years ago showing how TMG can actually help with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that you mentioned before, a couple of other things, and it seems to be protective for our heart as well, because what it does is it offsets the toxic buildup of the bad molecule called homocysteine. So the higher the homocysteine, the higher your risk for cardiovascular disease. However, if you're taking TMG, your homocysteine will be reducing. And this is why, this is such a wonderful compound to take.
Gosh, yes.
And
that's so
interestingly, yeah, so something that came to my attention recently with regards to TMG is its benefits for autistic children as well, because as I previously mentioned, it is involved in neurotransmission support, basically, and it seems to be very, very nourishing for autistic children's brains. And someone that wrote a book on autism reached out to me talking about TMG. Because she said that she's been given it to her son, who is autistic, and she's seen basically great results with TMG with regards to his cognitive function and how present he is and so on. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind, because I think that this could be very useful for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fighting with homocysteine in my mum's case with, going through cancer treatments, and some of the medications increased her homocysteine levels, and putting TMG into the mix, along with some other methyl donors as well, your B vitamins and folate and so on, has reduced it now down to the normal range, So that's been very important, because that increased her risk of having another stroke or heart attack, right? So it's pretty damned important, this thing. So we need to know what our homocysteine is, and this is why I'm such a big proponent of getting your blood tested, regularly, to see where these things are at, and then putting in the right things. Often people say to me, don't you just have expensive urine? It's not doing anything. And I'm like, I can take your blood now, put you on a regime, and see the outcome in a couple of months' time. It takes a bit to get things in the system and right, but then so no, it's not just expensive urine. That's just, for me, a cop out. But
yeah, absolutely.
And now you've got a couple of sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to say that there are different kinds of brands out there, and different kind of quality in terms of supplements. So some of them will indeed give you expensive urine, but with compounds like TMG, for example. So TMG is water soluble, highly water soluble, and then it's also it does have high absorption in the human body, and then we want to make sure that everything that we take it at the right time, and when it's appropriate for the body. So you do need to know a couple of things about the compounds that you're taking to kind of avoid this problem of expensive urine, which can still occur if you're not taking the things the right way. But yeah, as I mentioned, so TMG, for example, that is also called betaine. It's been firstly discovered in beets, in beetroot, and there's trace amounts of it in beetroots and in a couple of other foods. So there is no way you're going to get the right amount of TMG from your food. So this is why you need to take the supplement.
Absolutely, especially if you're dealing with something like a high homocysteine level like we've been dealing with. Let's look at a couple of the other molecules. We've got quercetin. Quercetin is another one of my favorite molecules on the planet. What does quercetin do? Can you explain why quercetin is important, especially as we age?
Yeah, absolutely. So quercetin has quite a lot of benefits. So it's a natural bioflavonoid. It's also found in trace amounts in some food, like onions and capers. I personally hate capers, so I never really hate them. So what it does is it helps improve inflammation. It helps improve blood pressure. It can also boost up your exercise performance because of its inflammatory effects. Anti-inflammatory effects. And it's also a natural antihistamine. And this is why we're seeing such a good effect with people that are suffering from seasonal allergies, for example, and then they're taking quercetin during the spring and summer when they might be having some sort of allergic reaction. And what we're seeing is that quercetin is basically fat soluble, so it's better to take it with a meal. So this is important because it's not water soluble like TMG or NMN and so on. And also, in order for quercetin to enter your body and to not oxidize before it does its job, it's important to take it with either vitamin C or NAC in order to support this process. And this is what we call the quercetin paradox. So if you take it by itself, it's not very efficient. And this is why at NMN Bio, we did enrich our quercetin capsules with vitamin C and also citrus bioflavonoids, because we wanted to make sure that quercetin is not being oxidized with the presence of vitamin C. And we also wanted to make sure that the vitamin C that we put in the capsules is being maximally absorbed by the body with the addition of citrus bioflavonoids, because this is where you usually get your vitamin C from, right? From oranges and citruses and so on. So it works very well with the citrus bioflavonoids and make sure that, everything is in as natural form as it could be in a form of a capsule. So quercetin is also a zinc ionophore, meaning that it actually increases the absorption of zinc in the body. So zinc is actually a very interesting it's a really interesting immunity booster as well. So whenever I'm sick, I'm taking both. I'm taking quercetin and zinc. Some people are actually quite sensitive to zinc, so then they get some nausea and so on. So you kind of need to account for this. So if you know that at 40 mg you would get nauseous with zinc, don't take like 40 mg plus quercetin, because that is going to be too strong of an effect. And then, of course, the anti-aging property of quercetin is the fact that it's actually killing your zombie cells, your cells.
Autophagy, senescent cells. Yeah,
so it's this is very important for us to kind of maintain our tissues clear as we age, because with age, the presence of senescent cells is basically being increased everywhere, and what we want is to keep the senescent cell population at bay. So there are a couple of ways to take quercetin. So someone could just take 500 mg of quercetin per day for as long as they want, or they could do a detox protocol to kind of emphasize the the senescent cell clearance and take 2 or 2.5 grams of quercetin per day for 5 days. This is an established protocol that we've seen before, working very, very well with regards to senescent cell clearance. And of course, when during the winter months, when you're about to get sick, you can also take some quercetin. So my personal protocol is when I'm about to get a cold, I just take 1 gram of quercetin for a couple of days. And usually this saves me from developing the cold further. So yeah, a couple of ways there to play around with it. And then, of course, as I previously mentioned, during spring, you can also take it as a preventative measure if you know that you're prone to hay fever and so on, just for a month or two during the months that, hay fever can occur.
I've been experimenting with that myself, because we're at a time of the year over here where we've got lots of pollens and struggling with that. So I've upped my quercetin intake at the moment so that I can deal with it. And I don't get, like, I was a chronic hay fever sufferer, and since being a baby, and I don't have it now as long as I take my quercetin. Okay, if I forget it for a day, then it comes back. But that's a better way for me rather than taking an antihistamine, which I don't want to necessarily do. So yeah, it's definitely, and anecdotally, it's in a lot of cancer protocols for the metabolic approach to cancer, quercetin, because it also has some anti-cancer properties. Not that it's a cure or anything like that, but it's certainly part of protocols that I've been using for this past year for mums. So really interesting molecule, quercetin. Let's talk about NMN, your flagship product, nicotinamide mononucleotide, world famous. Dr. David Sinclair really unleashed the beast when we talked about NMN and NR and these precursors and what sirtuin genes and activation, and now it's on everybody's tongues. But explain a little bit about nicotinamide mononucleotide. What is it? Why does it so important as we age?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that first of all, the compound has come a long way from 2-3 years ago when it first got famous due to David Sinclair's book, because 3 years ago we didn't have many human clinical studies and many evidence that it's actually as efficient as it is in humans. There was, I think, just one safety study, and then there were just mouse studies around showing incredible results, really, and showing that it basically can affect many hallmarks of aging, and it can combat aging in mice and other organisms. However, now I think we have at least 12 human clinical studies already, which is crazy because they've all been published in the last couple of years. Amazing. And we're seeing that this compound, which is a natural B3 derivative, is just doing wonders with regards to regulating different pathways that are implicated in the biology of aging. So the most important function is that it replenishes your NAD levels, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which is a master regulator of human metabolism. And this coenzyme is basically implicated in over 300 cellular functions in the cell. And I think this is the reason why we have such a profound effect when someone is taking NMN. And usually in order to feel a difference from a supplement, you would need a few weeks. But here with NMN, a lot of people record like really nice results within a few days. And the reason behind this is because there are so many cellular functions being optimized, basically, that you're feeling this compounded effect in terms of your energy and your focus. So, someone takes it and then a couple of days later, oh, I'm not tired anymore. Like this is not typical me. I'm usually tired in the evenings and now I'm not tired. Now I can concentrate better. And this is the result of having your longevity genes activated, that called sirtuins, that have to do with DNA repair and many other metabolic and epigenetic processes in the cells. Exactly, yeah. So, and then there are many other functions related to metabolism, to energy metabolism, basically, because NAD is a very important part of the TCA cycle of basically energy production in the cell. And that's the reason why so many clinical studies have already showed the importance of NMN when athletes are supplementing with it. So we've seen different kinds of studies, so from amateur runners to older men, for example, and we're seeing that in this kinds of populations of healthy individuals, we do have slowing down of the age-related muscle loss in elderly men. We also are seeing increase in peak performance in athletes and increase in VO2 max. And VO2 max is a very important indicator of health, in my opinion, because it's a very complex indicator. So what it is basically the amount of oxygen that can go through your tissues when you're exercising. And you basically are said to be reaching out your VO2 max when you start running out of breath, when you're exercising, when you're doing cardio. So the reason why this indicator is important is because in order for it to improve and to go up, there are multiple things that need to be right in your body. So it's the lung capacity, it's the cardiovascular health, your heart needs to be healthy, it's the insulin sensitivity in the muscle, and so on. So we have multiple things that indicate that you are in good health. And when all of these things are combined in your body, then your VO2 max is increasing. And then there is quite a big variation with regards to the human VO2 max in healthy individuals and performance athletes. And, I'm personally tracking this myself at the gym, and I'm just making sure that it's being maintained at good levels and it's being increased as I keep on exercising. So what we've seen with human clinical studies with NMN is that the VO2 max goes up. And this is great news for athletes because because we're seeing this in, you know, like in real life as well, with anecdotal evidence from our customers. We actually have a couple of elite athletes taking our supplements. One of them is actually very, very famous, and unfortunately, he has a contract with another supplement brand that's exclusive, so he can't advertise the fact that he's buying our supplements every month.
Bugger.
He did reach out to me saying, "Oh, I really love your supplements, and you know, like maybe we can like work together in the future." But he really, really loves it. He does hold some world records in you know in his category and things like that. And then also other athletes that I've talked to have reported the same thing. So increased endurance and faster recovery times, because NAD is also essential for inflammation. So it does regulate inflammation, and especially the combination of NMN and quercetin can do wonders for your athletic recovery. This is what we're seeing, again, anecdotal evidence from our customers. And it looks like we get more and more athletes on board right now that are taking our supplements, because it's very interesting how I was talking to someone saying that, oh, this is the supplements that we're selling. They're anti-aging supplements and they have this and this and this properties. And then they said, oh, so I can also take it, right? Because I thought it's just for anti-aging. But like, yeah, everyone needs the anti-aging supplement after the age of 25. Why would you not? You know, so
and they don't equate, like this is just optimal performance, so maybe we need to change the anti-aging longevity to optimizing your performance, because and as an older athlete now, trying to maintain my VO2 max, and that's something that I struggled with always. And somebody who's sick, who's got ailments, that's just first thing that goes down is your VO2 max. And some people who are really sick, whose mitochondria are really, really struggling, they can't even sit up in bed and they're already anaerobic, you know. So this is something that's really important to keep that VO2 max up and your max performance. And it's something that I track as well. And I've been on an NMN since, how long have we been knowing each other? Almost 2 years, I think, 18 months, 2 years.
2 years now.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm looking younger every day.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of wrinkles and a couple of grey hairs, but overall, as a 54-year-old and as someone who is constantly pushing the limits of performance and stress and all of those things, for me to maintain where I'm at is a very big win. I just did a body scan thing from one of those body scan things, and it came back that I was 8 years younger than my chronological age. And that, how exact that is, I don't know, and I'd like to do other types of aging things, and I was actually quite disappointed that it was only 8 years, and I'm like, come on. I wanted it to come back 30 or something,
It's getting there.
Yeah, so we're still working on the way down, but that's pretty good, and metabolic health for someone who's going through menopause and all of that sort of jazz that entails, and the dropping of hormones and the massive amounts of stress that I've been under for many years now as a caregiver and as running my own companies. That's not too bad, because all of those things, your HPA axis, your cortisol, your hormones, all of these things are being taxed every day. So for me, I can't lower the stress, and a lot of us can't. So I want to optimize what I'm putting in. So I do take all of these things. I am a big proponent of it, and it's working. It's working for me. It's working for my mum. It's working for my entire family, actually, and for many of my clients that I have on it as well. The last molecule that we wanted to talk about today was Berberine. Another amazing molecule. The more you study Berberine, the more you're like, give it to me. Explain Berberine and what it does, again, on that metabolic health side of things, insulin resistance, all of that. It's a fantastic molecule.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think after NMN, Berberine is like my second favorite compound as well for anti-aging and for overall health, because we now again understand that metabolic health is so important, that if it does decline, everything else will start declining in the body as well. So it all comes back to kind of, you know, the insulin resistance that we previously mentioned and so on, because you can't be healthy if you have insulin resistance, right? So what berberine does, it basically, it's stopping glucose oxidation in the mitochondria while stimulating glycolysis and increasing glucose metabolism. So it helps with weight loss, it lowers cholesterol, it reduces the risk of heart disease, and has antidepressant properties, and it's an antioxidant as well. And just as quercetin and TMG, it's actually not a new compound, not like NMN. It's a compound that's been around for a while, and there, I think it's over 100 human clinical trials showing how beneficial it is for the human body. So this is also found in different kinds of plants, and it also helps with bacterial, viral, and fungal infection, and to reduce fatty acid buildup in the liver. So I think the reason why we have so many beneficial effects here is because when you boost up your metabolism, again, like so many functions just start working better. And despite the fact that it's a water-soluble protein, what happens is that berberine by itself, it's actually not well absorbed by the human body because of a molecule called P-glycoprotein, which is in our digestive system, is highly expressed in our digestive system, and it actually blocks the absorption of berberine. However, that's the reason why we put milk thistle in the NMN bio berberine mix, because milk thistle does block the glycoprotein, and then your berberine absorption basically skyrockets. It becomes something like more than like 20x highly absorbable. So it doesn't make any sense to take the berberine without the milk thistle. And milk thistle is also good for your liver. So both of these compounds will help with weight loss. They will help with your metabolic health. And especially if you're someone that is consuming carbohydrates, this is definitely a molecule that you want to take in order to prevent insulin resistance and you know, basically regulate your blood sugar spikes a bit better after meals. And what you can do is you can either take it after each meal during the day if you're consuming carbohydrates with each meal, or you can take it at the end of your day. And what it also does, it activates autophagy, which is you know, the cell natural clearing process. And we do want to be in this autophagy state on a regular basis in order to make sure that our cells are basically clearing themselves from toxins. So it does activate what we call AMPK, which is a pathway that is activating the autophagy process. And it is basically the opposite of mTOR, which is activated when there are still amino acids present in you know, in our system, and it's the opposite of autophagy. So we do have this balance of mTOR and AMPK, and if you're doing intermittent fasting, you will end up activating AMPK for longer, and berberine can kind of help you kickstart this process of autophagy a bit faster after your meal. So I think that in order to make sure that your body is primed for longevity, is optimized for longevity, like you can't do it without it, basically. Even if you're low on carbohydrates, I think that berberine is a wonderful compound to take. It has hardly any side effects. So for example, metformin, which is a type 2 diabetes drug, and has a similar function with berberine, has been shown to be having all sorts of side effects that can include indigestion and problems with, you know, stomach problems and things like that. And we don't see this with berberine, not if a healthy person takes it. Of course, if you have a stomach ulcer, you would want to be a bit careful. You would take it with food, maybe start with a small dosage and so on. But if you have a healthy digestive system, you just take it whenever it's needed. And, you know, chances are that you won't be having any of those nasty side effects. Yeah. So I think that this range of supplements that we talked about today, they're essential to maintain your metabolic function and your cellular function, because, for example, berberine and NMN are a great combination for your metabolism, because NMN has also been shown to increase insulin sensitivity in pre-diabetic women. So, you kind of want to hit this hallmark of aging, which is basically deregulated nutrient sensing from all angles, and make sure that this is not starting to slide and you don't start developing insulin resistance. Very, very important. And, there are different hallmarks of aging. There were 9 of them, and now there was a 10th one added, which is inflammation. And recently, 2022, there was actually an aging symposium in Denmark where there were a lot of, famous scientists discussing the hallmarks of aging and actually adding a couple more hallmarks of aging to the whole process. And what we're seeing is that, to me, there is no official distinction in what are the primary causes of aging, or the primary hallmarks and the secondary hallmarks. But if I had to guess and to categorize it myself, like the deregulated nutrient sensing would definitely be the primary driver of aging, right?
Oh.
So, I think
this whole metabolic, discussion, and it's just so important for people to understand that whole metabolic piece. When you start to get that middle-age spread, that abdominal visceral fat, that's when things are going south. You don't even need a blood test to see that. You just need to look down.
Exactly.
Are you the same size around the waist that you were when you were a 20-year-old? If you're not, you've got some metabolic dysfunction going on, and people think that this is normal, and therefore, because it's common, common doesn't mean normal, and normal is not what we're aiming for here. We don't want that slide down. That's what, when they did that scan this time, came back with really, really low abdominal fat. And I was like, yay, there was a little bit of fat on my bum. Oh no, terrible. But actually, girls are meant to have a little bit of fat on their bum, right? That's not damaging to my metabolism, and it was still low and normal, but that's not damaging to my metabolism. What is damaging is when it's around the organs, when it's around the middle. So if you are noticing that either your bum's getting smaller and your waist is getting wider, if you're a lady, or guys, if you're getting that, beer belly or that protruding gut, and even you can be caught out. If you're a big person, you may still look flat, and you may still have abdominal fat mass. So really take account, are you the same size as you were when you were 20, around the middle? That's a really good marker, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, visceral fat and its accumulation, it's one of the first signs that you're developing insulin resistance. And the reason why you start accumulating visceral fat around your waist in the first place is because your liver is already not functioning properly, and it is actually already storing some fat. And, it's basically full of fat that is not being metabolized. And usually the reason it's not being metabolized is because you're consuming carbohydrates. So your body is actually getting the command that, look, there is glucose around. We'll just be, metabolizing the glucose, and we don't need to digest the fat that is accumulating. So when the liver is basically full of this fat deposits, then this is when you start developing the visceral fat around your waist. But now, it's already, this is already an alarm bell. Everything is already starting to decline with regards to how your metabolism works. Although if you are very conscious about your nutrition and your supplements, it's still fixable, right? It's not a death sentence.
Absolutely.
However, it already signifies that some of your bodily processes are not working as well as they should.
Yeah, and we need to be attacking things on every front. So, your exercise, obviously, your sleep optimization, all of those foundationals, we're not saying are not part of this. It's the most crucial part. But then adding in the right supplements that can help you, because you may not be seeing the results without them, and then just taking that next level. Elena, you've been absolutely wonderful. Dr. Elena Seranova, molecular biologist, founder of NMN Bio. Thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your incredible wisdom. I learn something every time I speak to you, so it's a real privilege. Thanks so much for being.
Thank you.